February 3rd, 2026, the Arabian Sea. An F-35C screams off the catapult of the USS Abraham Lincoln. It cuts through the heat haze, locks onto a target, and vaporizes an Iranian suicide drone. The threat is gone. The fighter drops its gear, hits the deck, and violent arrests back into the steel. The press headlines call it a victory. The war zone confirms the threat was intercepted. The Pentagon calls it a demonstration of combat readiness. But here at Navy Power, we don't look at the headlines. We look at the receipts. Because what just happened in the dark wasn't a victory. It was a financial crime scene. We just used a missile that costs as much as a single-family home to destroy a flying lawnmower bought on Alibaba. This isn't warfare. This is bankruptcy, with a guidance chip. And if you want to understand why the most powerful Navy in history is sweating over a $20,000 piece of plastic, don't just watch, analyze. Type asymmetry in the comments below. Welcome to Navy Power. Let's run the numbers. To understand the tragedy of this equation, you first have to respect the engineering of the solution. Let's look at what we just fired. The AIM-9X Block 2 Sidewinder. This is not just a missile. It is a masterpiece of aerospace engineering. Inside the nose cone, there is a mechanically cooled indium antimonide focal plane array. That sounds like technobabble, so let me translate. Most sensors see heat as a blur. This sensor sees heat in high-definition video. It can distinguish the exhaust pipe of a drone from the flare of a decoy. It can see the heat friction on the leading edge of a wing. At the back of the missile, you have a thrust vectoring control system, jet vanes that sit inside the rocket exhaust, physically pushing the thrust to the side. This allows the missile to pull 60 Gs in a turn. If a human pilot tried to ride this missile, their spine would disintegrate instantly. It is connected to the pilot's helmet-mounted display, or JHMCS. The pilot doesn't even have to point the plane at the target. He can look over his shoulder, fire, and the missile will perform a U-turn in midair to kill the threat. It is perfection. It is the pinnacle of American lethality. And the price tag for one trigger pull? $472,000. Now, let's look at the target, the Shahed 136. It is made of fiberglass and honeycomb plastic. It is a clone of a German aircraft engine, the Limbach L550. The original German engineering costs nearly $20,000, but this Chinese copy? You can find it on Alibaba right now for less than $5,000. It produces 50 horsepower. It sounds like a moped. It vibrates like a washing machine. Its guidance system uses commercial-grade GPS chips that you can find in a smartphone. Total cost for the entire drone? Estimates vary, but intelligence puts it at roughly $20,000. Do the math with me. $472,000 to destroy $20,000. That is a cost ratio of 23 to 1. For every dollar the enemy spends to attack us, we must spend $23 to defend. In the stock market, if you invested with that ratio, you would be bankrupt in an hour. But in war, bankruptcy takes a little longer. And that is exactly what the enemy is counting on. This is what military strategists call cost asymmetry. But I prefer to call it the golden hammer. When you have a hammer made of solid gold, you are terrified of hitting a rusty nail. Not because you can't drive the nail, but because you damage the gold. The U.S. Navy is currently put in a position where it has to use Ferraris to chase down go-karts. But the missile cost is only the tip of the iceberg. The real cost is the platform itself. Let's talk about the F-35C Lightning II. When that jet launches from the deck of the Lincoln to intercept a $20,000 drone, we are burning more than just jet fuel. We are burning the lifespan of the most expensive weapon system in history. The operational cost per flight hour of an F-35C is roughly $42,000. That includes fuel, maintenance, and the degradation of the radar-absorbent coating. If a pilot flies a 2-hour sortie to intercept that drone, add $84,000 to the bill. Now the cost of killing that one plastic drone isn't $400,000. It is well over $500,000. And consider the wear and tear. The catapult launch puts massive stress on the airframe. The arrested landing, hitting the deck at 150 miles per hour, is a controlled crash. Every time we launch a stealth fighter to kill a moped engine, we are putting miles on a Ferrari. The enemy knows this. They know that our maintenance cycles are complex. They know that for every hour of flight, the F-35 requires hours of work on the deck. They are trading their disposable plastic for our finite operational readiness. They are not trying to shoot down the plane. They are trying to wear it out. Now, let's zoom out from the Lincoln and look at the escorts. The Arleigh Burke class destroyers, the USS Spruance, the USS O'Kane. These ships are the bodyguards. They carry the heavy shield. The Vertical Launch System, or VLS. Those 96 concrete cells in the deck. Inside those cells are the Standard missiles. The SM-6 is arguably the best interceptor on the planet. It flies at Mach 3.5. It has its own active radar seeker. It can shoot down cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and even ships. Cost? $4.3 million per unit. Now, imagine a swarm attack. Not one drone, 50 drones. The swarm appears on the SPY-6 radar. The captain of the destroyer has seconds to decide. He cannot verify if these drones are carrying high explosives or if they are empty decoys. The radar signature is the same. The flight path is the same. So he has to assume they are lethal. He has to shoot. He orders the engagement. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 50 missiles leave the tubes. In 1 minute, that destroyer just fired over $100 million into the sky. But the money isn't the scary part. The scary part is the empty tubes. And this brings us to the logistics nightmare that keeps Admiral Okano awake at night. A destroyer cannot 3D print missiles at sea. It cannot pull into a friendly gas station to reload. For decades, once a destroyer went Winchester, meaning empty, it had to leave the fight. It had to steam to a friendly port, wait for a crane, and wait for specialized ordnance teams. This process takes weeks. The Navy is testing a reloading system called TRAM. But imagine the physics of that. You are trying to lower a 2-ton explosive missile into a tight concrete tube while both ships are rolling in 10-foot waves. It is like trying to thread a needle while riding a roller coaster. One slip and the missile smashes into the deck. So the reality remains. If the enemy sends 50 cheap drones today and 50 cheap drones tomorrow, the destroyer goes empty by Wednesday. At that point, a $2 billion warship is nothing more than a floating hotel with a very expensive radar. This is not a failure of firepower. It is a failure of sustainment. The enemy knows they cannot sink the USS Abraham Lincoln with a plastic drone. That's not the goal. The goal is to force the Lincoln to empty its magazines on trash, so that when the real anti-ship ballistic missiles arrive, the chambers are empty. It is a strategy of exhaustion. Now, I know what you're thinking. I see it in the comments every time. But what about lasers? What about directed energy weapons? The press releases tell you that the Navy has solved this. They tell you that the Helios system can burn a drone for the cost of a gallon of diesel fuel, roughly $10 per shot. Infinite magazine. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Physics is not a press release. Physics is cruel. Lasers have a fatal flaw called thermal blooming. Here is the atmospheric science. The Arabian Gulf is hot and humid. When you fire a high-energy laser beam through that air, the laser heats up the water vapor in its path. The air expands. It creates a lens effect. This lens diffuses the beam. It spreads the energy out. Instead of a tight, burning dot that melts the drone in 2 seconds, you get a warm flashlight that just annoys it. To kill a drone at 5 miles away in humid air requires capacitors the size of a room. And there is another problem: dwell time. A missile kills instantly. Boom, done. A laser has to hold the beam on the target. It has to burn through. Let's say it takes 5 seconds to burn through the plastic wing of a Shaheed. If 20 drones are coming at you at 100 miles per hour, you don't have 5 seconds per target. The geometry doesn't work. The laser can only kill one thing at a time. While the laser is busy melting drone number 1, drones number 2 through 20 are closing the distance. Lasers are a short-range goalie, not a midfield striker. We cannot bet the safety of 5,000 sailors on a technology that struggles with a foggy morning. So if missiles are too expensive and lasers are too weak, what is left? The human element. And this is the cost that doesn't appear in the budget spreadsheet. Defensive saturation isn't just about running out of missiles, it's about running out of attention. Let's put a face on this. Imagine Petty Officer Evans. He is a 22-year-old radar systems controller. He has been on watch for 6 hours. His eyes are burning. On his screen, the Persian Gulf is a mess of clutter. Fishing boats, commercial airliners, and maybe a drone. The enemy knows Evans is tired. They know the human brain struggles to maintain hypervigilance for hours on end, so they probe. They send a drone to the edge of the perimeter, 17 miles out, and then turn it around. They do it at 2 a.m., then at 4 a.m. They trip the alarms. The vampire call screams over the 1MC. Petty Officer Evans forces his heart rate down. He tracks the target. Then, nothing. The drone leaves, but the adrenaline spike stays. The cortisol floods his system. Do this for 30 days straight. The crew gets tired. The reaction times slow down. The boy who cried wolf effect sets in. And that is when the real attack comes. This is cognitive saturation. The enemy is weaponizing our own safety protocols against us. They are taxing our vigilance. And unlike missiles, you cannot just resupply a crew's mental endurance with a helicopter drop. So, is the aircraft carrier obsolete? Is the age of American naval dominance over? If you read the clickbait, yes. But here at Navy Power, we know something the critics don't. The U.S. Navy doesn't just buy technology, it evolves. We are seeing a shift in doctrine right now. It's called the soft kill revolution. If you can't afford to shoot it down, you shut it down. We are seeing the rapid deployment of the SEWIP Block 3. Look at the superstructure of the new destroyers. You see those massive, bulbous protrusions on the side of the bridge? The sailors call them muffin tops, but the enemy calls them blackout. This system doesn't fire projectiles, it fires electrons. It focuses a concentrated beam of microwave energy not to burn the drone, but to scramble its brain. It attacks the drone's GPS receiver. It severs the link to the controller. It convinces the drone's computer that it is flying upside down or that it is in Antarctica. The drone crashes into the sea. Cost of engagement? Pennies of electricity. Magazine depth? Infinite, as long as the ship's generators are turning. This is the economic shield. It allows us to trade kilowatts for threats instead of trading diamonds for plastic. But even this has limits. Autonomous drones with inertial guidance don't need GPS. You can't jam a map and a compass. So the pendulum swings back to kinetics. We are seeing the return of the gun. The Phalanx Sea-Whiz and the 57mm Mark 110 guns are getting smart ammo. Shells that explode near the drone, creating a shotgun effect of tungsten shrapnel. Bullets are cheaper than missiles. We are relearning the lessons of World War II. volume of fire matters. We are moving away from the one-shot, one-kill sniper mentality back to the wall of lead mentality. Because against a swarm of cheap plastic, you don't need precision. You need a shotgun. This is the answer. For 30 years, we built a Ferrari to race other Ferraris. And when the enemy brought demolition derby cars to the track, they thought they had us cornered. They were wrong. The Ferrari is putting on armor. We are turning the destroyer from a sniper into a riot squad. We are trading million-dollar missiles for pennies of electricity and tungsten shrapnel. The incident in the Arabian Sea was a warning, yes, but it was also a wake-up call. The king was bleeding efficiency. But the wound is closing. The enemy is betting that America will run out of money before they run out of plastic. But they forgot one variable. American engineers don't accept the premise of the question. We don't optimize within constraints. We break them. The days of firing million-dollar missiles at $1,000 problems are numbered. If this analysis gave you a new perspective on American resilience, hit that subscribe button. Most channels sell you fear. We sell you the physics of victory. Sleep well, the watch is set. This is Navy Power.